Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota, along the Porcupine Creek where the porcupines roam. I apologize. Last week I did not come on. Um, I took a little vacation, if there's such a thing. Anyways, I forgot to take my laptop, so I didn't get home in time to set anything up, and I'm like, okay, well, anyway, so I apologize. It was a last minute decision to go, and then I didn't think about all, anyways, forgot the laptop. So here we are today. Today I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First, it's really been a different transition over here with YouTube. So, hmm, YouTube, before with when we were in Facebook, like we could send out the notifications, and I'm still working on trying to figure out how I do that. So I want to say please subscribe to the channel, to Toksa Hour channel, so I can send out notifications. Also, um the the chat, I mean, I'm just adjusting because I'm not real familiar, or I'm not great in YouTube yet. Like I was able to do a lot of stuff in Facebook, and Doksha Hour left Facebook for the reason of Meta. Like we didn't I personally was only in Facebook because of Doksha Hour. And so I would always go like I wouldn't be logged in all the time at Facebook. I wouldn't be over even tending to news or information because I'm always over in TikTok. And so I'd be doing that, and um so I hardly felt like I wasn't up to date anyway. So I have more become up to date in regards to like global things versus, so in the macro world versus the micro world, where it's life in South Dakota, reservation life in Porcupine, all of that. And so it is really hard for me to knowing like the things, and YouTube does this as well, but it's not as complicit as what Meta is doing with our data. And so that's why I had to leave. Like there's so much issues, like Meta, the Messenger app. People don't know. They use the Messenger app. That information, like nothing is confidential there in the Messenger app. So if you think you're doing something confidential, trying to have a confidential conversation in Messenger, it's not happening. There's a lot of ways that people, our Meta has authorized for other people, and it's not saying that we're all intentionally being criminal or anything like that, but there's this sense of privacy that social media has really like started to take away from us. And so when we look at what is happening with our data, how our data is being sold, how who is benefiting from it, and like having some form of control over our data. And Meta is like one of the worst violators of this. And it was kind of like when they did the ban on TikTok in January and TikTok went dark, that was it for me. It was like I can't people don't realize how controlled Meta is. So they have this ability to um control their algorithm. So their algorithm isn't like an as you grow algorithm. It is almost like a state censored algorithm. So they don't want you to know things, so it doesn't come on your feed or your news wall. News feed, I think that's what it's called in Facebook. So it doesn't come there. And then people who are sharing news, so like it just like Doksha Hour is always in the beginning when we started, like there was a lot of viewership and whatnot, and the viewership stays, it comes and goes, but one of the things that I started to notice was people were like, hey, I didn't get notified because I signed up to be notified that Toksa Hour was live, that you went live. um I didn't get notified, or I didn't even get notified, like I have to intentionally search out Toksa Hour to come to the Toksa Hour page to see. And then I also have to do things like within my calendar or whatever so that I have reminder that Toksa Hour is on. And so I have to come find it versus, even though they've liked and followed and I send out the notice to everybody, they weren't getting it. And so those are some of the things. And um I suppose it became more for Doksha Hour, the shadow banning, or the restricting of the algorithm, because I started talking about Palestine and started talking about what was going on over there, started talking about the connections to our everyday life and all of that. And so that kind of really did slow down the conversation. And then the extent of how people are doing the what do they call it, like the AI. So they're utilizing AI. And so Facebook is going to utilize AI to start taking pictures, scanning your pictures, what everybody's pictures, scanning anything that can be of relevance and recreate. So even like our voices, recreating our voices. So now we can get to a place where we don't know what is authentic. So did she really say that? Did he really say that? And so those are the dangers, and it frustrates me because a lot of times our tribal councils, they don't even take up these issues. They don't they're so caught up in the micromanagement of their tribes and that they don't even think about like protecting our data. What kind of rules did they put in place to protect our data? How can our data be used? And so a lot of these things, like the misuse of our data, then also, like in Facebook, can be targeting our elders, be targeting our youth. And so then they click on the link and then they end up in some situation, right? Like they lose their resources, their access. And that's the other thing, like Meta Messenger. So if you have Facebook, I mean, I guess I could have did it that way too, is just left Facebook to my computer and just said that I would do it that way versus the app, because when you download those, you give them the full complete access to your phone. It's really crazy. I mean, all apps are kind of like that. So uh the understanding of like what privilege, I mean, seriously, I'm getting to this point where I'm thinking I'm just going to go to a flip phone, and then I might even just go back to a house phone, because this stuff is, and just leave technology to my laptop at my house and log in there and check the news. And the convenience of it being on our phones is really nice, and it helps fill void time, but it also like manipulates us. Like we become addicted to our phones, so we have to check our phones all the time, what's going on over there. And so we find ourselves in that situation. I remember a few years ago when my auntie was still with us, I would just put my phone in my visor or under my seat or whatever, and I would go in and visit her. And like I started saying, that's what I'm going to do. So every time I'd go visit somebody, I would just leave my phone in my car. And anyway, so doing that, then I'd have people say, I was calling you, and I was like, oh, I was over at Auntie's house and I was visiting. Like I just trying to be intentional about what I'm doing and my visits and so forth, and give the attention to the person that I went to go see, and like that. So anyways, that's kind of like what I I used to do. And then I haven't really I haven't really done much of that. So so there's some things I'm learning about like podcasting and how to save these things in podcast form. I never like Facebook, I never really thought about that. Like people would say you're doing a podcast, like Toksa Hour is the first podcast. Um things like but I never really thought of it because we were just doing this live stream on Facebook and so I never really thought about doing the conversion to podcast. Why I didn't know much about it also, we were in a pandemic, so it's not like you could really be creative in that sense. Like, I live, in Porcupine, and um, I don't have a very big house, so I just don't have space where I'm gonna set up. So either I'm sitting at my kitchen table or I'm in my bedroom when I do dope shower. So those are the two places that are available for me. Soon I might get my spare bedroom back. I don't know. My granddaughters have been with me since COVID, and so I don't know. I probably won't get it back. But yeah, so it's kind of like that. Like I really think about like how to improve and what to do and expanding the audience for Dope Shaw Hour. And so those are some of the things that I'm planning on. I didn't touch base, or I didn't get in contact with the person I'm hoping to get to come on to Dope Shaw Hour and to talk about some legal things. It was very exciting when I ran into him and met him because I didn't know him. And here he knew my mom. And that was, I mean, and I didn't even know he didn't tell me. I was just telling my mom that I was talking to him. And she's like, yeah, I know him and all of that. And so that was kind of exciting. And so she told me a little bit of the story. And that he is a really good guy and he's really intelligent and stuff. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on, trying to get that. And it's been so busy that every time I like, okay, I got to get his contact information and that have that, and then I totally forget the day has already gone. So it's on my thing to do it, to get his contact information and to bring a conversation here about tribal sovereignty, to talk about where do we go in a Trump era. And like there's good and bad to everything, right? The Democrats weren't 100, Republicans aren't 100. It's like always looking at like what is the impact. But with Trump, like right now he's like in a free fall of support. Um Elon Musk is taking a nosedive, in Tesla. And so he was interviewed on Fox News where he was crying around about how everybody went, he's lost his stock and it's not fair, and how Tim Walz has come against him and it's not fair, and doing that. And it's just like shake my head, shake my head. But yeah, he just went and took everybody's jobs, at the federal government, and took all of their livelihood. And then he's sitting over there crying around. Shake my head, shake my head. Yeah. The other thing is there's a lot of people like they talk about the transgender stuff, and I'm just there's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of propaganda out there, and people really have to know, or like I'll speak up about it. Like I was listening in a live on TikTok yesterday, and I think the TikTok took the live down, but I was listening and they were talking, the host was talking about Zionism, and So as you do your research, you find more and more things out about Zionism. And people the Zionist is working really hard to associate to Judaism, to say like we're Jewish and you're just picking on us because we're Jewish. But Judaism and Zionism are two different things. And so when people are protesting Zionism, they're not protesting Judaism. And so that's like important to understand. And it's also important to understand fundamentalists. Like every group, every belief system has a fundamentalist belief. And fundamentalism is like this hardcore right to like belief about something. And then they'll say like the left or the center, the left are more liberal and they're more they open up the belief systems more for to allow for free thought or whatever. So every group, and then they talk about, like cults or things like that, like how you have to do it this way, one way or the other. Anyways, where was I going? So in what Trump is doing, like he's really coming out, the GOP, the far right, and you have to remember the evangelicals are far right. They're in the fundamentalistic side of Christianity. And so they are over there spouting over, upset because they created transgender bathrooms, like I like that. I like that I have an option that I can just go use a different bathroom. Like if all the women's bathroom is lined up, there's a family bathroom that I could go to and I could just use that. And so allowing people the choice, opening up the thoughts about choice and what we can do. Anyway, so this whole thing, like, oh, they're brainwashing. And I'm not brainwashed, but I wasn't raised in Judaism. I wasn't, I was kind of raised in Christianity, but um not really. I mean, we used to go to church and we used to do that stuff, but then my dad really fought for us to have our culture and our belief systems. And so like growing in both, maybe like so I can understand Christian world, I can understand Lakota world, like really trying to do that. And many Native Americans, American Indians, Indigenous, First Nations, hey, can put all the words out there. Many of them, many of us, we don't view transgender as an issue. So when the government said we're going to do these things, we're like, good, recognize them. Like we have stories, like in Lakota culture, like Dakota culture, like we know that the wink day comes from the Wakia, and that this is all associated, and they have an important role in our society. And so it's really important, like when people start saying, oh, the blueberries did that. That's what they have. Like TikTok, you have to have code language because if you speak in regular English language or whatever, you get banned. You get taken down. So there's a whole language over in TikTok that you have to learn. So blueberries are Israelis. They're the Zionists. And so then they're saying that they're the ones that have taken over our curriculum, and they're the ones that are teaching these things. And so it's really interesting. It's really interesting that people don't really dig deep into all of the words and things that are being said. So if it is the Zionists that are doing that, then how come all of the GOP people support APAC? APAC is funding them. So they are doing things to support whatever it is they vote in favor of the Zionist. But you have people saying that Um, it's the liberals. And me myself, I identify like I'm more progressive. Like I think that in all human life or in the whole world, like we should be decent human beings. We should treat everybody right. We should treat everybody fair. We should be good. And we should also acknowledge that Unchi Maka is living too. She has spirit, she has a heartbeat, and she exists, and we all exist because of her. And so sometimes people will get us caught up into these thought processes where we are different, that we are um supposed to be different anyways, like we're separate, we're better. And even like whenever they talk about the great race and about who would win, and the two-legged won the race, so then we would have more say or um in the world. It didn't That wasn't to say that we were supposed to destroy the world. And so there's a lot of things people sometimes they thread, like they're threading things into your mind to make you say, "Hey, yeah, that's true." So, anyways, I was in the live, and I go in that live all the time. Sometimes I'm even on their panel speaking, but I will say things like that too. Like that may be true over here in Christian, over in that world, but that's not true in indigenous worlds. And we don't have a place where we separate, or where transgender people are less than us, because in Lakota belief they're like, they're not ikje. And do they believe, is there a belief that people are grooming? Maybe. And those are conversations we do have to have, because in our belief systems you are born this way. So do we have to understand the difference from being born this way to the grooming of it? And grooming happens everywhere. Grooming is a situation where we can groom children young into sexuality. We can groom people into hatred. We can groom people into prejudice. We can groom people into in education. Education is a grooming system as well. Thought processes. And so grooming is something that happens, and it's really unfortunate that that is happening, but it's something that we probably do have to talk about or look at, or whatever. But I just choose not to be judgmental, and I just choose not to be um critical of who people are, and to have respect. Like my grandpa always said that, like, respect isn't earned, it's given. And so you have to really think about who you are as a human being, and then that goes outward. And yeah, I know that I mess up sometimes, and maybe I am not giving respect, and I have to put myself into check about that, and maybe apologize. I might apologize to people if I see them for being disrespectful of them. But respect is really important in our culture. And it's not something that we just say, "Oh, you're elderly, but you may be elderly, but you have to earn my respect." Well, who the heck are you? That's just how that is. Like, who are you? So you think that you can talk to anybody that way, because our belief is grounded in ikjewi chasha ikjewia. Like, we're common. We're all the same. We come from nothing. Come from the earth is where we come from. So learning to have respect for everything and ourself, so that it starts there, right? Like, respect comes from self, so we have to learn to have respect. All right, enough of the morality police here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it, go all out like that. Hey, good morning, Steve. Thank you for joining. Yeah, education is back to the States now. I sure wish Governor or Senator Rounds would go back and be Governor Rounds because he worked really hard to bridge the gap between Indian community and thought or whatever and that. So, oh, good morning, Sean. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I'm really glad you guys are here. Wait for Carolyn to chime in and hopefully everybody finds their way this way. Anyways, so I've been doing a little snooping around. I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I don't just get access. So I have to wait for somebody to text it to me, to give me access. And so, a couple of things happened, and then it's the same. I gotta, go to find Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe on YouTube so I could follow them on YouTube so I could watch their councils because I would watch it through Facebook and their from their Facebook. And then the same thing for Rosebud. So I don't see, so I have to find them in YouTube if they have a channel or who puts it. Maybe it's the radio stations or whatever. Because this OST is put on KOLC. KOLC is who, and they're at OLC, the OLC TV station. So they're the ones that air the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council's meetings, and they store them live on their YouTube feed. So, Sean, if you know, put it in the chat so I could look. Go save them so I could go watch their stuff. But I was over snooping around. They said, "Hey, um did you hear about what the tribe banished a whole bunch of people?" And I was like, "No, I didn't. I knew they were going to, but I don't know who's on the list and I didn't know any of that stuff." So um let's see if I can pull it up here. Uh hmm, and now I'll just make this a little bit bigger. So did it share? So the Oglala Sioux tribe, they did their ordinance number 24-07 and their banishment, and it says um to protect the Oyate, reduce crime, and deter future harm, the Oglala Sioux tribe amended ordinance number 16-22, which authorizes the tribal council to exclude and banish persons convicted of homicide and dangerous drug offenses from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Summary of Section 2-6. 1. Oglala Sioux Tribal Council shall have the authority to exclude and banish 2. The Chief of Police, the Attorney General's Office, Tribal Council, or any person with information regarding an individual with a dangerous drug offense or homicide may provide information to the OST Legal Department. 3. The OST Legal Department shall provide the list of names and last known addresses to the tribal council or to the tribal secretary with the jurisdiction, criminal offense, and date of conviction. And 4, copies of ordinance 24-07 available upon request at the tribe secretary's office. The Attorney General's office has prepared the first list of federal convictions received for conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance. These banishments will be for a period that may include indefinitely and will be determined by the tribal council. The verified list of names for banishment by the tribal council is as follows. Try to move it up. So we have Shauna Ray Brewer, Bull Imitates Dog, Malvin Brewer, aka Rico Brewer, Sequoia West, Marcus Pawnee Leggins, Ryan Waters, Joshua Blackfeather, Shayna Phelps, Alec Respects Nothing, Frank Milk, Lynette O'Rourke, and Thomas Highhawk. And so those are the people on the first list of banishment. So they're specifically looking at homicide and dangerous drug offenses. So that's what they're looking at. Homicide and dangerous offenses. So I use my rainbow cup. I think it's just a design because I saw one of my coworkers has a bowl that matches this, but I just call this my rainbow cup because I have to figure out ways in which I can still support community, right? Without, anyways, yeah. So, um, so that's where that is. Uh, looking at how we are how we are dealing banishment and who 'cause there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of people on banishment. I mean, if we're using drug convictions, like there are people that were in tribal vehicles that were making drug runs to Denver that got caught on their way back. So I don't know, like if they're just picking and choosing, maybe these guys are the ones that turned information or something. So the drug cartel on in the tribal council, just kidding. Yeah, tribal administration or FAO. You have to try to figure out ways in which they can throw shade back on people who maybe turn over on them. I don't know. I don't know. I shouldn't be like that, but there's other people. I mean, there was like a whole drug conspiracy um that happened with methamphetamine, and I only see one of those people on there. There are like other people. There are like other people that were related to council people, or those council people need that family vote. So why aren't those people on there? You know? So it's kind of interesting to see that, like um where this list comes out and how it might be coming out, because we have a lot of people, and then I don't know how far back does it go. How far back? Like, are they going back to 1934, 1936, whenever the IRA came into being? Like, how far are they going back? Because there was a lot of murders that happened on this reservation, and where are those guys at? You know, there's a lot of crimes against women on this reservation, where women were murdered. Like I could talk about my Auntie Sandra. That guy's still alive and he lives in Kyle. He did that in the 70s and then he did it to another person. But he's still that second person, I don't think died or passed away. I think she lived. But I don't know. There's all kinds of things like that, that could be like, are we going that far back or are we not? And then the other thing is, like, the tribal council can't even keep Shane Coombs off the reservation. banished him back when he was abusing an elder, but yet he's still here. He's right down the road in Porcupine, like he bought Hart Ranch. Yeah, he's still here. I think Kevin Killer, when he was president, his administration tried to do something, but nothing. But yeah. And then the irony of it, and I said this previously on many Toksa hours, is now that we're talking about banishment, we're going to banish these people. They're all going to be up in Rapid City, right? And then we're going to be saying, oh, you're mistreating our people in Rapid City. And then all our funds are going to go to Rapid City. I don't know. Life is tough on the res, that's for sure. And how you can combat with banishment, because people need to stop selling drugs and they need to stop grooming children at a young age, because I know it's happening up in Evergreen. I know it's happening up there. I know it's happening up in Porcupine. I know it's happening down towards Sharps Corner area. I know in my district this is happening. It's made acceptable. And how is that? So you could just go back down the chain of the stage of grooming. So when you look at like grooming in the sense of, oh, I'm drinking a beer, I'm drinking this alcoholic beverage and it's illegal on the reservation, but then that's a sense of grooming, everybody's drinking. And pretty soon that young kid is in it. That's the same thing for smoking weed. Smoking weed. Pretty soon, that's the same thing for meth, same thing for cocaine, same thing for all of that. But it's only the meth. I think all those guys in there are all about meth distribution. I haven't seen and that's what I'm saying. Like the cocaine distribution is not being on there. And some of the cocaine distribution stuff people are getting away with. Why? Because they're running in tribal vehicles. That's why. There's a lot of protection for them. I remember when this one Head Start director at one time, they say that her and her husband, they would all they'd randomly call the cops and there's a shooting over here, so all the cops go fly over to that side of the reservation and then they'd bring the drugs on. There's all that stuff dealing with drugs. It's ingrained. Gangs became a part of our culture. And it's gross to say that, but gangs became a part of our culture in the late 90s, mid 90s. I remember Trey, I remember the Nomads. And then what was it? Then the Crips and the Bloods started to creep in, and then there was the ICP, Insane Clown Posse. I remember people used to do that, and I watched that like I was in my 20s in the 90s, and knowing that and just seeing people, leaders, people getting elected to council who are a part of that. And then while these gangs were starting on the reservation, you had TBZ up in Rapid City that had, I think they started like in the 80s. They became, building their whatever. And TBZ is big in Rapid City. And all of these gangs are involved in trafficking, human trafficking, and in drug trafficking. And so when they're doing banishments, like, where's those names? Where's those people that have been caught? And are we going back? How far back are we going? And then is there, what's the process? I believe it's like after 5 years, then you can come back and go in front of council and talk to them about how you've changed your ways. I think that's one of the times I remember listening, they were saying, but yeah, so I missed the banishment council meeting and I wanted to listen to it. So I tried to listen to it, but I don't know where it's at in the whole council meeting. listen through and a lot of stuff anyways. But that's the banishment. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was Oyate Health. So they're always on topic, but they're never in the news. It's never in the news. So Tears Toksa Hour always trying to bring these things to the news. Um, so there was a resolution on the floor. And it comes in at the end of that resolution. It comes in or on the council. They don't read the resolution. It comes on with Richard Greenwald, and he's talking. He's talking about some things that had happened. And so you listen to that conversation about the frustration that's going on up there. So there's a couple things under this whole resolution conversation. The resolution in itself was the resolution is titled "A Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Directing that the Oyate Health Clinic in Rapid City, South Dakota refer Oglala Sioux prenatal patients to the Oglala Sioux Tribe's Native Women's Health Care Program and refer Oglala Sioux patients to the Oglala Sioux CHW program for transport." So there's this conversation that's taking place in this um where they're talking about how people are being treated. And so and I don't go to Oyate Health, but I probably would have gone to Native Women's Clinic because I used to be a client of Native Women's Clinic, and I used to be a client or patient of Susan, but I don't think I can be anymore because they're now Oyate Health and they have their service area in which they service, and Porcupine, South Dakota is not one of those areas. But then again, it could be because they have a resolution in place that says giving them areas to they could service the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, but that's another conversation. Anyway, so there was this conversation that was going on about within this reading of the resolution and what they're gonna do or what's gonna happen. But Mr. Greenwald was saying, Sheech was saying that um people are being mistreated, and so he's advocating, like this needs to be addressed. Like they're trying to take this away from you guys. Like the tribe can take this and just run this clinic themselves because of the way you're treating people. And Councilwoman Anna Halverson, she was saying about OH or the tribe OST, um in their contract, they contract 129, or they transport 129 members a month to OHC through their CHR transport program. And then OHC, Oyate Health, they transport 1,068 members, and these are Oglala, Rosebud, Cheyenne River, and 60% of them are OST to the facility. So so then that would be like 600. I think I did the calculation. So Anna Halverson was saying that you'd have to the tribe would have to make room to transport 640.8, so 641 people additional to their 129 a month. And she didn't know if they'd be capable of doing it. They were prepared to do it. Well, you should do it. I don't know. This is really a complicated thing because there's duplication of services here. So the tribe, Oglala Sioux Tribe, years ago contracted the CHR program, contracted the CHR program and Native Women's Clinic, and it seems like there was one more thing. Health administration. I can't. There's three things I think that they did back in the 90s. They created 638 contracts for that. And then whenever they went through the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, when they went through that, then it changed. So, I mean, that didn't change. They kept that, but then they're contracting. So Oglala Sioux Tribe is duplicating in their services, and how IHS allowed that to happen, it's happening. And so you have Native Women's Clinic, who is being affected by Oyate Health because they refuse to share services. And so they were mistreating them. This is all like public knowledge stuff. They're mistreating them. CHR, same thing. Like, and so Richard Greenwald is saying that you need to be professional because we're hearing it. And so supporting are making the move. They're going to make the move probably soon if Oyate Health don't get it together to take over that service. So in the discussion though, before they ran their vote, was the conversation about who owns the facility. And Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston, she said that a few years ago, IHS, through their regional director, who is Joe Amiot, told them that the facility belonged to IHS. And so IHS has sent in a thing to that, Trump is making everybody go back to work. They got to go back to their offices. And this is another conversation I'm going to hope to get into. But he's telling everybody to go back to their offices. And so they're all of the Great Plains region is living in Rapid City. And so are the leaders, there's a lot of them in Rapid City. And so they're going to take up office space in Susan or at OHC. So they have to make space for them. And then there's this discussion about, telling the tribes, buy this facility and we will rent it from you, and that's where we will go. And so it sounds like maybe Aberdeen area office is now in Rapid City. I'll have to get more clarification on that. Anyway, so there's that controversy going on around that. And so they voted to refer those patients, and it passed 13 yes, 2 voted no. And then they went into the next resolution was to rescind the resolution 24-55, and that resolution prohibited standing committees from meeting off reservations. So they wanted to rescind that resolution, and that passed 10 yes, 7 no, 2 not voting. And so now they can go back twice a month, I think is what they said in that meeting. Twice a month, HHS is going to go to Rapid City to meet with the committees up there. And Councilman Norman Standing Bear, he made, is it Standing Bear? Standing Soldier. Standing Bear. Yeah. Hate when I do that. Anyways, so he says that we can't even make quorum for committees on the reservation. So we should do that first before we be trying to go to Rapid City for quorum. But of course, they're all going to get paid for it. So it'll go up there. Yeah, it'll go up there. Unfortunately. Boo. Okay, so it leaves me just a little bit time. My grumbles. My grumbles and my awareness. So what do you guys know about private equity? We need to be knowledgeable about it. So I follow this lady on TikTok, and her name's Tiffany Cianci. And she she's like very knowledgeable about private equity, and it looks like we're going to be in a free fall because of private equity. And so private equity is what they do is they buy up small business. So they're these ventures of billionaires, millionaires, or whatever corporations, and they create a private equity, and then they go and buy up small business, and then they change that small business. They actually collapse the small business. So what ends up happening is private equity, let's say they bought Joann's. You guys all know Joann is going out of business up in Rapid City. It's a fabric shop, but that is going out of business. And so Joanne, this whole year was thriving. It was it was doing very well. And then all of a sudden they're filing for bankruptcy. And so private equity purchased Joanne's. And then what they do is they have the small business go and do a loan. So they go to the bank and they tell them that they need to maybe improve facilities, do something with their real estate. They need to expand and grow or whatever, and so they go to the bank, and they'll go to the bank and they will take out a loan, and they call these loans I'll have to I had to make a note on my phone because I was listening and I was like, oh my god. So I ended up calling people about this because it's very alarming and concerning. So they take out what they call back floating rate loans. And what a back floating rate loan is, it is an adjustable rate loan. And so what does that do? So when your interest rate goes up, your loan payment goes up. Interest goes up, loan. So what is happening with these back floating rate loans, they are killing the small business. So Joanne cannot pay back. They cannot pay back the debt. And so they might have had Joanne's build what do you call it? Business, build real estate. They might have had them build office space, do all of that, or purchase office space or whatever. So Joanne's cannot pay it back. And so they're filing bankruptcy. So now we see 50% off. I got to get to Joanne's because I need fabric. But anyways, so they're doing that. And what ends up happening with these loans, so the bank, so this is what Tiffany Cianci is saying, is that the banks know from the housing crash in 2008 that the people will riot if the government bails out the banks again. And so what they did is they took those loans and they repackaged them and they called them collateralized loan obligations, CLO, collateralized loan obligation. And then they sold those to the pension programs as diverse investment opportunities. So saying that this is these are diverse, loan packages, their interest, all of that stuff. So these are all collapsing. These are all collapsing. And what Tiffany is saying is the end result is because of what is called the carried interest loophole, this is all able to happen. And so all of this debt is going to fall on our pensions. So our pensions are going to be collapsed. Social Security is going to be collapsed. Unions will be collapsed. Everybody's going to be collapsed in this because of how these were offered as investments. And so our pensions and all of them invested in them. And so it's really, really important. Like I've been telling people, I've been even calling tribal council peoples saying, you better see where your investments are. Like Shakopee and all of those rich people, like you guys better check where your investments are. If they're in private equity, if you're investing in private equity, you better start pulling your money out of that stuff because it's going to collapse. This is going to collapse and it's going to devastate. And so what Tiffany says is um, the banks know that the federal government and the people will tolerate a pension pay or payout, payback or whatever. We will tolerate that because that is our parents, that is our grandparents, that is our pension. So the payback to us or whatever to come from that. And it's $3.7 trillion that is caught up in this. $3.7 trillion. And so I thought that was very interesting because it's tied to 3.4 trillion that Trump is trying to cut. But I will say, and this is something that I called Rounds, Thune, and Johnson about, is to support because President Trump does want to close that. Tiffany Cianci is a very connected person to RFK. And so RFK, who knows all about this too, because he's an attorney. So they got Trump on board to close this loophole. And so I've been calling people to say, do that, close that loophole so this can't happen anymore. It stops happening. Like there's got to be some kind of accountability that occurs for this. Um, no, Social Security can, um, because they're stealing it. So like all of our money that we put into Social Security collapses because we pay into it and they take it. They're taking it. And so it's those things that we have to really understand. Like the money's going to come from somewhere. Yeah, Steve. But I just used Joanne's fabric as an example, but you can go, you might you might care about Hooters, just kidding. But Hooters is a private equity. A lot of small businesses, and if you just seen um Dollar Tree has sold Family Dollar to a private equity. And so that's going to happen there. So all of this moving around of money, it's $3.7 trillion of debt. Yeah, we'll have to see if we can get a matchup. Trump versus Star comes out, see what happens. And yep, and why are rich people still allowed to evade taxes? That's really the question, like, because nobody's making them pay taxes, nobody's making them do any of this. And it's really, um, I don't know, like, we just have to be more informed because hard times are coming. We all know this. Hard times are coming, and how they're funding, how they're cutting, all of that. Like, I don't know. I try not to be an alarmist. I don't want to be an alarmist, but I don't want to be naive either. Like try to be informed about what Trump is doing. And I don't know if you guys saw this, and I wish I had time enough to set it up, but there's a TikTok of Elon Musk. And did I say that earlier that he's crying around about his Tesla? Let's see if I can be it'll be our closeout thing. See if I can pull it up. If they didn't take it down already. Sometimes they take down these videos. Oh, the other thing is uh um Ramadan, for those people that, so Gaza is 90% is 90% probably about 90% Muslim, and they've been in the time of Ramadan, and um Ramadan is done today. I think today is their Eid, is what they call it. And what does it say? Hey. then TikTok wants to make me verify everything under the sun. Just let me log in. If it sends me the code. But yeah, so that's coming to an end today, and they've, even though they're in this time of prayer, that's been something that's been hard for me. You know, they've still been bombing them and killing them. It's like insane. Like one day, I think it was, they bombed a facility and they killed 160 people, and the majority of those were children. And there's even like this TikTok where this father, all he had was his baby's head, trying to pray. Like, it's just horrible. 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 People are horrible, and our government supports that. And if it was a Christian nation that this happened to, our government would probably be all dramatic about it, right? Okay, I'm in, and I'm going to go to me and go to my liked videos and see if I can pull it up. But it's so funny. Where are you? They might have taken it down. Darn it. But it's a Fox News interview where they're interviewing Elon Musk, and he is just, I don't know. I think that guy's on, I mean, they already say, I don't know what ketamine is. I don't know what that does. That's what they say he's on. And like even in that interview, he kind of seemed like it. He seemed all weird. Like the way, there's another video too of him being at some kind of White House dinner and he's playing with silverware. That's crazy. And I can't find it. So if I find it, maybe I'll try to share it out on here. Um uh let me see. I better. The other thing is in the scandal, I'll just try to close up here in 2 minutes. In the scandal, I don't know if you guys knew or heard about it. It's been all over the news about the texting scandal. We have the Department of Defense Secretary, the Department of um what is the Department or Secretary of State, the Secretary of Department of Defense. And then you have Tulsi Gabbard, who is the, what is she? Anyways, all these guys, all, and the vice president, all giving out or confidential, highly secret information on their bombing attack in Yemen. And so that's all over in the news. And so I think that's crazy, but already they're saying nothing is going to happen. And we have to remember that the Supreme Court said that Trump is, or the president of the United States is untouchable. And so charges can't be brought against them. And so even if they try to do anything to these people, all Trump has to do is pardon them. That's all he has to do. He's just pardon them. And so he could even be like Joe Biden. Joe Biden just did the most horriblest thing when he left office. He pardoned all his relatives or whatever, so nothing could happen to them. Gave them a pardon to any future prosecution or whatever. And so we have all of this corruption at the top. And so we the corruption is modeled for us in at all levels of government, whether it's state or tribal, federal, state, tribal, even international corruption. All of that corruption trickles down. That behavior trickles down. And so, oh, they got away with it, so we can do it. or let's just set the system up to abuse it. And so when we're thinking about that, so oh, I'm just gonna pardon everybody. We're just gonna be criminal. We're just gonna do whatever we want to do. I'll pardon Christy Nome, whatever, she did a video, a TikTok or a commercial is what she did. A commercial out there standing in front of a caged group of men, large mass number of men, and they're stacked up on top of each other on these bunk beds in Venezuela. So she used our own government money to go to Venezuela to air a commercial about what she's doing. And many of those people aren't even, there's nothing, but that's where we're at. And so all of that behavior trickles down. And so if there's any morality that is even the right morality, the evangelical morality isn't even being represented in through this. And even the evangelicals' corrupted belief system of hate for others, they don't care what Trump is doing, except for True News, which is a evangelical news system, has just done back when was it, March 29th? No, March, anyways, 19th, I think it was. They had a news segment on Trump, and where they are alleging that and this is a big issue to them because they're evangelical Christians, that Trump in 2017 converted to Judaism. And so now they're saying, look at all what he's doing for the Jewish people, Israel. Look at what he's doing. And he hasn't done anything for the evangelicals that he promised he would. So, anyways, that's the state of the nation. All right, you guys, I'm sorry I went over a little bit. I'll try to be better about time and stuff. So remember to subscribe to Toksa Hour. It doesn't give a follow or anything like that, but even to share it out, like you can share it via email, you can share it to whatever platform you want to share it to. Anyways, you guys have a great